Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another webinar session conducted by the Destination Knowledge Center. Today we have Chitra Ganapati with us, who is going to make a presentation on the festivals and folk dances of Tamil Nadu. Before handing over the floor to her, let me introduce Chitra to you. A cost accountant by profession and a first-generation entrepreneur by choice, Chitra Ganapati runs a trust named Kadambanam Trust for Culture and Heritage. The aim of the trust is to preserve, promote, and perpetuate the rich cultural heritage of Tamil Nadu, which boasts of one of the oldest living civilizations in the world, articulating different facets of Tamil culture, such as language and literature, customs and traditions, values and ethics, arts and crafts, food and clothing, history and mythology, spiritual beliefs and rituals is her forte. Chitra is also the managing director of Kadambanam, a concept tourism project showcasing Tamil Nadu's culture and heritage, comprising of a cultural center and an ethnic resort village. Developed as a model for indigenous tourism, it is one of its kind, combining eco, rural, spiritual, cultural, crafts, and heritage tourism. In a nutshell, we can call it a center of Tamil traditions. Kadambanam runs on a social entrepreneurship model, providing livelihood to people, especially underprivileged women from surrounding villages. This project was awarded the Best Rural Tourism Project Award under Incredible India brand of the Ministry of Tourism in April 2016. Chitra's work has been recognized widely. The latest is being adjudged the Outstanding Women Entrepreneur by Business Network International in the Madurai chapter in 2019 and by the Confederation of Indian Industries, Madurai in 2020. So welcome to this webinar session, Chitra. I'm handing over the floor to you.
Vanakkam. Thank you, Mr. Inder. And I'm very happy to be joining all of you today at Sita to talk about the festivals and folk dances of Tamil Nadu. And as I have a lot of ground to cover in the time that has been given to me, I will straight away delve into the topic. As you know, India is a land that stands for unity in diversity, with every state having its own flavor, not only in terms of the language that is being spoken, but also the customs, the traditions, the ritual, the food, the clothes, and whatnot. And even the flavors between Kerala, which is our neighboring state, and Tamil Nadu are totally different. But underlying all this diverseness is a unity that helps us claim in Tamil a very famous saying, Yadum Ure Yavarum Keli, which was quoted by our former president Abdul Kalam at the UN, composed by Kaniyan Poongundranar in the 3rd century BCE. It is part of our Sangam Literature Reporter, and it means the world is ours and everybody is related to us. This is the equivalent of the Sanskrit Vasudeva Kudumbakam. And there are many underlying similarities pan-India in terms of cultural interpretations. If I were to give a very easy example, we all know that Deepavali is around the corner, right? And Deepavali is a very late entrant into Tamil Nadu in terms of festivals, so much so that I'm not even including it in the presentation today. But in our custom, before any auspicious festival or event at home, youngsters fall at the feet of elders and take their blessings. Now, when I say this, this is something that anybody sitting in any part of India could relate to. So such common threads are there everywhere, and these go back to a very long time. So we, again, here sitting in the Tamil country, boast of a continuous, uninterrupted, long living civilization, because if you see the world over, ancient civilizations have been there, but over a period of time, they have disappeared. And we read about it in history books. As recently as about 4 or 5 years ago, from where I am sitting, I'm just getting into the first slide. There is a place called Chittiray. First slide is not moving. This is about half an hour from where I sit. And the archaeological excavation here has been, as of today, carbon dated to 2500, 545 BCE, which means this is about 2500 years from now. And every day things are getting carbon dated and the dates are going back even further. And what is very interesting is that from that time till now, we living in these parts of the country have been literally speaking the same language, eating the same food, wearing the same sari. So this is what makes the Tamil culture very special. And even those thousands of years ago, Tamil Nadu had trade connects with the Sumerian and Egyptian civilizations for which there is archaeological evidence. So that is what makes Tamil Nadu special. And today, when we are about to talk about the festivals of Tamil Nadu, I would like to start with our New Year, which falls on the 14th of April. So it does for a few neighboring states like Telangana. And the Tamil calendar follows the New Year falling from April 14th till, of course, the next year. And every month has a lot of festivals happening. I will be highlighting the most important of these festivals. So this is Tamil New Year, and what you see here, some of you might recognize in Malayalam, it is called the Vishukkani. This is a practice where, see, you must also remember that when we talk about Tamil Nadu, once upon a time, neighboring Kerala was our Chera country, when we were ruled by the three great kings, the Cheras, the Cholas, and the Pandyas. So this is a custom that is found in these parts, where on the New Year's Day, in the night, the lady of the house arranges all this in the puja room. You see the jewelry, the lamp, the fruits. This is all to signify prosperity. And in the middle is a mirror. So next day morning, the lady brings the man of the house and the children blindfolded early in the morning, and they are to open their eyes in front of the mirror and then look at all these things to signify prosperity and happiness throughout the year. From there, and all the temples will be crowded with people asking of favors from the Lord for the year to go well. So from there, we jump into the first major festival in the calendar, and naturally sitting in Madurai, I'd like to start from here, the Chittiray Festival. So Chittiray is the month that is being born on April 14th and goes on till about May 15th. And here, all our festivals go by the nativity chart that follows the star movement. So the dates cannot be fixed in an English calendar. So nevertheless, Chittiray Festival comes somewhere towards the end of April, the beginning of May. It is the celestial wedding of goddess Meenakshi, who is the presiding deity here. Again, in Hinduism, the presiding Lord Shiva and his consort Parvati go by different names in different cities. Perhaps this is just to make people living in any particular city feel closer to that form of Lord, because naturally I will feel closer to Meenakshi. I see her as my mother. And here you have a very grand ceremony happening, witnessed. This is a 10-day festival, right? And you see at least 1 million people visiting the temple over this 10-day period. And the wedding ceremony itself is the highlight. The next day, the Lord and the goddess are taken out in a huge procession in what you see here, a very, very large temple chariot. So if you see, there are human beings here, let's say this is about 6 feet, then the wheel itself is about 12 feet. Then you should imagine the height of the chariot. It is made of wood, and it is really a sight to see it being pulled by thousands of devotees on the main streets of Madurai. And on the next day, you have the festival of Kallalahar, who is a Vaishnavite god. In traditional mythology, he is the brother of Meenakshi and comes to attend the wedding. But, let's not go into the story in detail, but he gets here late. And by the time he arrives, the wedding is over. So he's very angry. He doesn't cross the river Vaihe and come to the south of the city to the temple. He just takes a dip in the Vaihe and goes back. Kallalahar temple in Alagar Malay lies to the north end of Madurai city. And here you will see, in spite of having lakhs of devotees, those of us who are stakeholders in tourism in Madurai, all of us form a travel club here. And for the past few years, we've been working with authorities to create a special platform for tourists, wherein, say, for example, on the day of the Thirukalyanam, the tying of the sacred thread happens by around 9:30, 10 o'clock. And, those of us here in Madurai have to go into the temple premises by around 4:30 a.m. to get a vantage point to view. It's a first come, first served basis, and it is a ticketed program. But for tourists, we have an arrangement where in an exclusive mandap, while all of us have to sit on the floor, they get to sit on chairs. We take them in at around 8:30. They wait for an hour, witness the wedding, and before the crowd start dispersing by 10 o'clock, 10:15, they are brought out safely. So for all this, we take permission from the local government authorities, from the Hindu Religious and Endowment Board, which is the official wing managing the temples, and arrangements are made. So following this, in Chittiray, the next Tamil month is Vaihasi, starting in the middle of May. And this is very, very special for Lord Muruga or Kartigeya. Now, who is Kartigeya? You see, in Tamil country, the life of a family man was always put above a life of an ascetic. So this Tamil culture always promoted, living a life as a householder as against that of sainthood. That is why certain heretic religions and faiths like Buddhism, though born in India, didn't find a root in these parts of the country. So, to establish the family, you have a father and mother, and then what do you need? You need two sons. So, here is Muruga, the younger of the two children of Shiva and Parvati, and his birthday falls on the star of Vishakam in the month of Vaihasi, that is May. And there are several temples to Lord Kartigeya all throughout Tamil Nadu, but there are 6 major holy abodes, one of which is what you see in this picture here. This is Palani, where he sits atop a hill. In most of the places, especially related to Muruga, he always is on top of a hill. Kundrukkum idamellam, Kumaran irukkum idam is a saying in Tamil. Wherever there is a kundru or a hillock, you find Lord Muruga. Well, the association in terms of history and archaeology here goes much deeper, but if we have time, I will come back to it at the end. So here in Palani, atop this hillock, Murugan is taken out on his birthday in procession in all grandeur in a golden chariot. Now, if you are in these parts of the world and you are interested, you could go to any of the Murugan temples that dot the Tamil landscape to catch a glimpse of his birthday celebrations. Here again is the beautiful temple of Chidambaram. And following the month of May in June is the Tamil month of Ani, and you have something known as the Ani Thirumanjanam. This is the rise of the ascendant star Uttaradam in Ani, and here it is very, very special for Lord Nadaraja. Lord Nadaraja, as in Chidambaram, represents the cosmic configuration of the Lord's form and is a very, very interesting concept by itself. And here you will see hundreds and hundreds of devotees turning up for this ablution. So it also happens in all the other places, all the other Shiva temples in Tamil Nadu, but Chidambaram is very special. Then comes the month of Adi. Now it's the turn of the mother goddess. Throughout Tamil Nadu, in all the temples dedicated to the mother goddess, be it a large one like the Meenakshi temple or even a small temple around the street corner, you will see people participating in several festivities, especially the ladies, with utmost favor. To every woman in the Tamil country, the nearest goddess, in my case, I have a temple at the end of my street. She becomes my local protecting deity. And here you see a very interesting concept known as the Molaikottu or Molaipari. This happens all around Tamil Nadu, but especially so in cities like Madurai, which are still sort of, overgrown villages. You will see hundreds of women carrying these pots going on the streets. Now, what is this actually? This pot is known as the Karagatam, and this represents that Mother Goddess is Mother Earth. She sustains us by giving us food. So what do they actually do in the month of Adi? In Tamil, there is a saying, Adi Pattam Tedi Vidai. This is when the farmers start plowing the fields. Soon the rains will follow, the monsoon rains. And this is praying to her to ensure a prosperous harvest. Now, do you see the plants atop these pots? What happens is the seeds are made to sprout and grow in a dark room under the eye of a watchful lady with a lamp burning 24/7. Men are not allowed into the room. And the seeds germinate and grow about a feet to a feet and a half tall, that is about 30 inches tall, in a matter of 9 days, which actually defies logic. But the ladies believe that it is the power of the mother goddess that makes this happen. Following this is the Adi Timidi, where in several shrines you have women walking over the hot coals. And here is another scene that you see. They get prepared by, they get bathed in the turmeric water, they hold the neem leaves and undertake it as a sort of a devotional practice to the goddess. And it's mostly the women who do all this. And you can see these scenes anywhere in Tamil Nadu. Then several temples organize for what we call in Tamil as the Vilakku Puja, where they light their lamp and worship the goddess. And you see there are lot of 1008 lamps, 108 lamps according to the size of the temple. This happens all over Tamil country. Now then comes August, the month of Avani, where weddings start to happen. And Ganesha again is a bit of a late entrant into the Tamil country. Anyway, Ganesh Chaturthi, which is his birthday. Of course, he's the eldest son of our Lord Shiva and Parvati, the elder brother of Murugan, is a pan-India festival. And you know how it is in the north with huge Ganeshas being taken out in procession. In Tamil Nadu, this is rather toned down. But what is important is that wherever you go, you will see hundreds of clay Ganeshas sitting on the roadside a couple of days before the festival itself, which people purchase and bring home. And after worshipping for 3 days, on the third day, it gets immersed in the nearest water body near our home. So following Avani comes the month of Puratasi, which is somewhere in September, October, more towards the end of October, where we have the very, very famous Navaratri. Nava means 9, Ratri means night. So the festival of the 9 nights, where again women get together and worship the goddess. Here what you see behind is a part of an arrangement of a golu. Golu is nothing but an arrangement of dolls. And in every traditional Tamil household, you will see such an arrangement. There is a reason behind everything, the order in which the figurines are kept on each and every step. And this is a time of social camaraderie where women go from one house to the other, especially little girl children with their pretty silk pavades, and they go around singing songs and getting blessed by the elders. And you have interesting things happening like the kolam competition outside temples. And here what you see is a street in Chennai outside the Kabalishwar temple. On a single street, you will see about 50 to 60 shops selling these Golu dolls, which itself makes for a very interesting visit for a passing tourist. You don't even have to go into the temple, where also you will find elaborate Golos. And this year is a place in Madurai known as Velachery, which is again just 5 kilometers from where I'm sitting, where it's in a whole village, there are about 50 to 60 families all involved in manufacturing of these dolls, which are exported to several places. Now, this has also picked up as a very popular tourism product as far as Madurai goes, where during the season, people coming here are taken to the village and they go and visit the artisans' homes and see how the dolls are made. Now, coming to another part of the festival that's happening in the temples, of course, these processions and activities go on in all temples of the goddess. But here is one which is very special, happening in a place called Kulasegarapattinam, which is about an hour and a half hours drive from where I am en route to Kanyakumari. Here, there are many people, you see these devotees who go into a trance. They are there with what we call the tea chatti, the fire pot, and they are actually men dressed as the goddess, and they're all performing artists. They do this as a sort of a ritual and undertake a 30-day penance that culminates on Dasara. And you see different forms of these goddess like this who will be going around the temple, and lakhs of people turn up. Unfortunately, this year, due to the COVID scare, this was suspended. And here is our temple at Madurai, the Meenakshi Amman temple, all lit up in glory for Dasara. And in every temple in Tamil Nadu, you will have 10 days of music and dance. Any tourist can walk into any temple and you will be witnessing either a Bharatanatyam performance or a Carnatic music recital. And here, the highlight is the 9-day festival culminating in Saraswati Puja. Now, this is an image of goddess Saraswati, who is the goddess of knowledge and wisdom, always depicted as dressed in pristine white. And mythologically, she is the wife of Brahma, the god of creation. And on the day following Saraswati Puja, which is the 9th day, right? The 10th day is Vijaya Dasami, Dasami meaning 10th. And that is the day when all sorts of auspicious learnings begin. And here in the Meenakshi Amman temple, there is a concert of the veena. You see the stringed instrument, it's called the veena. Hundreds and hundreds of players come with their veena and play in the temple to the goddess, and they consider it very, very auspicious. And even schools in and around Tamil Nadu, where we are, they have an admission during Vijayadashami for the kindergarten classes. So to that extent, it's considered very auspicious. Of course, following Dasara, right now we are in the beginning of a month called Aipasi, where Deepavali is around the corner. The very next day of Deepavali starts a 6-day fast known as Sashti in praise of Lord Kartigeya. It's as if after all the feasting during Deepavali, you go into fasting where, it's a cleansing of the body and the cleansing of the soul. Most of the women in the houses, men, of course, they go to work. Very few of them undertake the fast. But most of us women, we do the 6-day fasting. And we believe that, Lord Kartigeya will grant us anything that the heart desires if we undertake this fast. It's even more good if you can go to one of these temples. This is Tiruchendur, a shore temple, which is very beautiful on the shores of the Bay of Bengal. And this is again a 6-day festival. On the day of the culmination, you have what is known as the Surah Samharam, where there is an Asura whom Lord Kartigeya destroys with his spear. And here you can see on the shores, the beach is packed with lakhs of devotees turning up to see the Surah Samhara. This happens across all the temples in Tamil Nadu, and this also signifies Lord Kartigeya helping destroy our own ignorance, the Asura within us. And following this, there is in every temple, Shiva temple in Tamil Nadu, on every Monday, we call it Somavaram in Tamil, in the same month of Kartigai, there is what is known as Sangabhishekam. You see, these are all conch shells, and either 108 conch shells or 1008 conch shells. See, there are very many smaller festivals like this that I'm not mentioning, but this I thought I would just take up as a sample. While Sashti is a mainstream event, Sangabhishekam is also mainstream, but well, you can see it on any given Monday in the month of Kartigai in any temple of Lord Shiva here in Tamil country. And all these conch shells are filled with holy water, prayers are done, and then the water is used to perform an ablution to the Lord. And this is incidentally our own temple within our Kadambanam cultural center. And following this comes Kartigai Deepam. This falls on the full moon day of the month of Kartigai. This year it's on November 29th. And here, of course, is the spectacular Tiruvannamalai temple where it is most special. You see, here in Tamil country, we worship all the 5 elements of nature, and there is one very important temple associated with every element of them. That is, for example, Tiruvannamalai is associated with the fire element, Chidambaram with ether. Similarly, you have water, air, and earth. Earth is Tiruvayaru or Kanjipuram, and Kalahasti is for the air, and for water, it is Tiruvanikaval, which is near Tiruchi. And here, lakhs of devotees gather to witness Kartigai Deepam. If you see here in Tiruvannamalai, the hill itself is considered to be Lord Shiva. And there atop the hill, this photo doesn't do any justice to the spectacular sight whatsoever. You really have to be there in person to get the spirit of it. You can see the top of the hill from anywhere in the city. You just have to get entry into the city. And on the day of Tirukate, no traffic movement is allowed. So you have to really walk for about 5-6 kilometers to enter Tiruvannamalai. But here, a huge fire is lit at this auspicious time in the evening. And after seeing this, all of us light our lamps at our home. So you don't even have to go to Tiruvannamalai. Come to anywhere in Tamil Nadu, any street in Tamil Nadu, you will see women putting the elaborate floral patterns, the columns in front of their homes and lighting the lamps. And the whole place is, aglow with the lamps. It's really a sight to see. Any tourist coming during this time, this, of course, as I said, this year is November 29th, they just need to go on to any street, anywhere they are, to get a sight such as this. Here again, following this in November, in the month of December, from December 15th is the very auspicious month of Margazhi. And from December 15th to almost January 13th, it is the month of Margazhi. And this marks the beginning of the winter solstice, as June, that is month of Ani, marks the summer solstice. And here in Chidambaram, the Arudra or Tiruvadirai, that is the date of the ascendance of the star Arudra, which in the cosmic calendar relates to the star Aldebaran. It's a very bright red star in the sky. is the holiest of holy festivals for Lord Shiva. And here again, you see the performance of ablutions to the Lord that starts in the night, the preceding night on the full moon day. It starts by around 10 o'clock and goes on throughout the night till about 4 a.m. in the morning. And at 4 a.m. in the morning, after all the ablutions are over, you have the Deepavali. And like if there are about 16 items with which they perform the Abhishekam itself. So if it is milk, milk goes on for half an hour. If it is curd, curd goes on for half an hour. You will see in this picture that they are using pomegranate seeds to perform the ablution. Now this will go on for 10 minutes. So they'll have these huge vessels into which devotees keep coming throughout the day and adding to the offering. They can offer milk or curds or fruits or whatever, and then all that is sanctified and used in the night for the Abhishekam itself. And in the Vaishnavite temples around this time, you have the Vaikunta Ekadasi, which is the Ekadasi falling in the same month of Margali, very, very holy. And here is a scene from Srirangam, which is in Tiruchi on the banks of the river Kaveri. Again, the crowds inside the temple will be too much. All you need to do is to be in the place to see the energy of all these people going around. And this happens in all the Vaishnavite temples throughout Tamil Nadu. So if you want to experience it, you can always go to a less crowded one and not a more popular one like Srirangam. Now, going a little away from mainstream Hindu festivals, here is a very interesting festival happening towards the end of January. I'm skipping one major festival because I want to come back to it in the end, which is the most important festival for us, the Tamil people, that is Pongal, which happens to be the first day of the birth of the month of Thai, which traditionally coincides with either January 13th or 14th. So I'll come to it at the end. Here, this is the Tyagarajar Urchavam at Thiruvayar that falls somewhere towards the end of the month of January on the date of the birth star of Saint Tyagaraja. Now, he was a saint poet who composed glorious hymns in his mother tongue Telugu on Lord Rama. And no concert in Tamil country, Carnatic music concert, for that matter, anywhere in South India or anywhere around the world, will be complete without the musician singing one of the kritis of Saint Tyagaraja. And here, this is his birthplace, Thiruvayar, which is very close to Tanjavur. And here is his temple. And there are again 10 days of festivities where musicians from all over the world come and perform to honor the saint. And on his birthday, there is something called the uh, Panchakriti, that is 5 kritis of Tyagaraja, which any student of Carnatic music has to know. And you will see hundreds and hundreds of musicians congregate on the banks of the river Kaveri. Do you see the sand here? This is just the river bank, and they've just created the Shamiana as a temporary structure. All the leading musicians of the Tamil country will be here. Not only the Carnatic musicians, but violinists, flutists, mridangists, everybody will be here. And this is really a sight to watch. You can just about stand anywhere and pick up the vibration that it creates. A similar very interesting festival is the Mamalabaram Dance Festival. Well, I think some of you might be familiar with this. It started as a 1-week festivity, but now it goes on almost for a month, from somewhere around middle of December till the middle of January, with the spectacular rock cut temples of Mahabalipuram itself as a backdrop. There are artists coming from all over India, more so of Bharatanatyam, but all pan-Indian artists get a platform here. And this attracts quite a good number of crowd and makes for a very interesting evening. Similarly, around this time in Chennai, unfortunately this year again, COVID has ensured that the music season is washed out. But in December, Chennai is abuzz with activity, with concerts happening around the clock in various sabhas, that is organizations, and most of them during the daytime have a free entry. So anybody visiting Tamil Nadu has, if they are in Chennai, has to visit one of these sabhas and take in a little bit of Carnatic music or Bharatanatyam, just to sample our cultural heritage. Now, here is the month of Thai, where we have the Thaipusam festival happening on the full moon day of that month of Thai. Here is the spectacular Mariamman Teppakulam in Madurai. Tepam means a float, and Kulam is, of course, the temple tank. And this temple tank is very large. It's about 300 meters by 310 meters, a squarish tank with a huge mandap in the middle that we call Maya Mandabam. And this is the float. This is gloriously decorated, and people start thronging the venue from about 4 o'clock in the evening to catch a vantage point. Here again, as members of Travel Club, we have arrangements with a nearby college where the front terrace offers spectacular views of the float being pulled. And here is the god and the goddess in their splendor sitting inside the float. And here is the action where they are pulled along with some heavy ropes. You see, the float is inside the water, but the ropes will be on the roadside, and you will be seeing a team of persons pulling it around the tank. And this is the Maya Mandapam being lit up at night. In the same month of Thai, the same Thai Pusam is also very holy for Lord Kartigeya, where people, this is a kavadi, and you can see the man having his mouth pierced. They sort of do this as a form of devotion to the Lord. And this is the kavadi, which is quite heavy, which they carry on their shoulders. And they walk for miles together to nearest Murugan temples and offer it to him. Following this comes the very, very holy Maha Shivaratri, where, in all the Shiva temples, you can just about walk into any temple, no restrictions there. People will be sitting and fasting and praying through the night. The idea is to stay awake through the whole night. And this, of course, today has become a very big event and a crowd puller in Tamil Nadu, the Isha Center at Coimbatore, where lakhs of devotees gather and there is a spectacularly choreographed show that is put on. Here again, artists from all over the world coming and participating. And see, in Tamil culture, all our art forms, our dances and our music, again, are very significant in that they are offerings to the divine. So this is one way of worshipping the Lord just by chanting his name or dancing to his name. And here around the same time, again in Chidambaram, you have the very famous Ngati Anjali. Natyam means dance and Anjali means offering. So here there are devotees coming, dancers from all over the country, a 10-day festival around Maha Shivaratri, where thousands witness these programs. They think it is very auspicious to come here and offer their dance to the Lord of Dance himself, Lord Nadaraja at Chidambaram. Another scene from Ngati Anjali. And then comes the month of Panguni. Panguni coincides almost with March, so we're coming towards the end. Again, very, very holy for Lord Muruga. This is known as the Palphudam. As you can see, they all have these vessels on their heads. It's filled with milk. So again, they do it as an offering. They march for kilometers together with this and go and offer it in the temple to be used in ablutions for the Lord. Here again is the beautiful temple of Tirupurangundram in Madurai, again one of the 6 holy abodes of Lord Muruga. And here Panguni Uttaram is very special because, so those of you who know your mythology know that Muruga has 2 wives. His elder wife is Devanai and the younger one is Valli. Muruga married Devanai here in Tirupurangundram. Devanai incidentally is the daughter of Lord Indra, the king of the Devas. And there is a big story as to how Lord Kartigeya saved the Devas from the torment of certain demons. And in feeling of goodness, Devendran offered his daughter in marriage to Lord Muruga. And here you will see thousands of devotees turning up to witness the celestial wedding. This is a very interesting Veda Padashala being run by the temple, where on any day you can walk in and see these young boys who are domiciled within the temple premises. They're all training to become priests. So they stay in the temple for 7 to 8 years and train to become priests. Panguni Uttaram is also very important in certain Shiva temples, like this one is the Mylapore Kabalishwara temple, where you have the Arvati Mover Vira. Now this is Nandi, atop whom you find the Lord seated in all his regality. And this is a 10-day festivity which culminates in this. Arvati Mona means 63. In Saivite culture, there are 63 holy saints. And in all the Shiva temples inside the Sanctum Sanctorum, you will find 63 stone idols dedicated to these saints who are worshipped and prayed every day by those of us in the faith. And this is one day where they all come out of the temple and are taken in procession and are given a special place of worship. So this is the Arvati mover for you. So now we come to the most important and interesting and oldest of Tamil festivals, that is Pongal. References of Pongal again are found in the Sangam literature, which goes back to the 3rd century BCE, 2300 years old. This is a festival of thanksgiving where the harvest is done. Of course, incidentally, the pictures I'm showing you are from our place, Kadambanam, which is in the countryside of Madurai, surrounded by villages. And here you will see that the farmers take the first produce of their grains and their vegetables and make an offering out of it first to the sun god. Here, prominence is given to the sun, without whose blessing and without whose light, nothing will grow. And guests are engaged in pre-preparatory activities like tying the flowers, collecting the firewood, and this is the adupu or the stove on which we are going to make the pongal, and this is built out of bricks and cow dung and then decorated with the floral pattern, kolam and kavi, and guests are supposed to help out in all this. And so these are the pots in every Tamil household. Even now, even if we are not using it, when our girl gets married and goes to the in-laws house, we have to give her what is known as a pongal pane, that is a new pot. And here you see ready to break the coconut and pour the water inside for the pongal itself to start. And here you see them adding the rice to the boiling water. And when it boils over, all of us standing around shout Pongalo Pongal. See, Pongal is both a verb and a noun. As a noun, it means the cooked rice. As a verb, it means pongadal or overflowing. So this overflowing signifies overflowing of happiness and prosperity. Naturally, it is a time when the farmer has money because his harvest has just gotten over and he's, taken the produce to the market. And this is when marriages get fixed and auspicious events happening, all because it's a time of prosperity. So here he is, even today in Tamil Nadu, in this 21st century, in the day of technology, you still see the poor farmer yoked to his plow as working as hard as his bullocks in plowing the fields. And so it is that the day following Pongal, it's a 4-day festivity. First day is for Surya, that's the sun god. Second day is known as Matu Pongal, where we worship the holy cow and the bullock or the ox, without whose help agriculture would not be possible. And of course, the cow sustains us with her milk. And all the pujas and activities and significance of the rituals are explained to our guests. And here's the typical arati happening at the temple. On the Pongal day also, we have a Molapari again to pay our offerings to the Lord, and we have a Molapari Kumi which is being performed. Guests also have fun activities like riding a bullock cart, catching a couple of shows, and we have demonstrations of a cockfight and ram fight. These are all just small demonstrations, not the full fight itself. And they have, relay races and competitions. All this is to just add to the festive mood. Here you can see men having a go at eating the sugarcane. You see, many of these customs, even in our generation, we are seeing them fast disappear. We normally see that when we ask, youngsters to come and participate, it is the older ones who come for sugarcane eating. Our children don't know how to eat sugarcane. And I mean, probably after having too many chocolates, their teeth are even weak and they can't bite the sugarcane. I really don't know. But, and then here comes the spectacular Jallikattu, that is the bullfight that happens on the 3rd day. All around, this is a place called Alanganallur, which is most famous and which is just 5 minutes away from Kadambanam. But all over these regions, all through the 10 days following Pongal, you will see this Jallikattu happening. And this is a very, very old sport of Tamil Nadu, again with a 2,500-year-old tradition. Well, there is a big story behind it, which I will not go into, but these bullocks were traditionally reared by the women folk in the villages as a sort of a pet animal. And so when a man wants to ask her hand in marriage, very simple. All he had to do was tame the bull and then he could win her heart. And that is how Jallikattu traditionally started. Then the guests are treated to a big festive lunch. And then there's some shopping, this is sugarcane juice and a photo op. So with this, we come to the end of a very quick overview of the festivals of Tamil Nadu. After this, I'm going to stop sharing and open another presentation on the folk dances of the Tamil country. And that will again be a very quick presentation, which I hope to finish in about 3 to 4 minutes, so that we have another 10 minutes for question answers at the end. So is it visible? Right. So if it's not visible, anyone can, just stop me. Now, Tamil Nadu has a very, very rich tradition of dance and music, as I already mentioned, very closely connected to our rituals and functions. We have a dance and a music for everything, from the time a baby is born to a house of death to any festival in a temple. There is always music and dance. And many of them have been detailed in our Tamil literary works also, as opposed to almost 100 dance forms that we had. Today, we find only around 25 to 30 of these forms that are still in practice. So the rest we know by name, but we don't know what the dance form itself was. Here is Karagatam. You see, this is the Karagam in which the women traditionally grew the seedlings for their puja. And here you will see them in the stage using the same Karagam as a performing art. I'll just make it full screen. Yes. And at the back are the percussion instruments, and this is the Nadaswaram, the pipe instrument, which is very, very auspicious in the Tamil country, finds a place in all the temple festivals as well as in dances like this. And of course, in order to entertain the guests, the dancers also do all these kind of tricks. You can see him picking up two needles in his eyes, and it's very difficult to do so because he's balancing the karagam on his neck. And mind you, this pot is very, very heavy. Here he is doing a tea karakam, one with fire lit. And here our guests are also invited, to sample these to understand how difficult it is to actually dance with a heavy pot like that on the head. And Tapatam, where tappu or the parai made from goat hide, is a very traditional and old instrument of the Tamil country. And it's very popular even today. And especially in villages, it forms a part of any festivity. And our guests also get to try our hand at that. Voyilatam is a very interesting dance. As you see, it's performed only by men. And Voyil in Tamil actually means style. It's just to show that men can also dance gracefully. There is always a singer accompanying with a rhythm and a beat. Kattai Kalatam is a dance on stilts. You see, these boys are standing on stilts that are about 5 to 6 feet tall. And Devaratam, again, as you see, this is also again performed by males. There is a very, very interesting story behind this, which I will not go into. But all these folk dances have some amount of ritual significance behind it. Originally, they were performed in temples during festivals, but now they've shifted on to the main platform, like how Bharatanatyam itself in those days was confined to the walls of the temple. Karpasami Atam, which is almost like the Teyyam, again shifted to the stage from inside the precincts of a temple, where at the end of this Atam, the dancer is expected to go into a trance. Even while sitting in an artificial atmosphere of an auditorium, when you hear those drums and the beat and the reverberations, you almost get pulled into the act. Kali Atam is a similar such form. This is the same Atam that you saw during the Dasara festival, here of course happening on the stage, where in all their paraphernalia, they dance to the beat of the drums. Poikal Gudre is where, they wear stilts. It's called the dummy horse dance in Tamil. Before the visual media and other forms of entertainment came, these dances were the equivalent of, entertainment. And people came in crowds to see these, and they still do, despite having our televisions and all the other fast-paced entertainment. All this is still happening live and well in Tamil country. This is the Madatam, then the Mailatam, where they dress themselves like the peacock. Of course, Mad is the oxen, and the peacock, the Mailatam. And then you have the Puliatam. See, as you can see, this is a little different from Kerala's tiger dance. This is not the tiger. In Tamil, the cheetah is called the Sirtai Puli. So this is what he is depicting in this costume. Then you have the Kavadiyatam, the same Kavadi that is used to worship Lord Muruga is also used as a prop and dances are performed. You have the Kuravan Kurati Atam, that is the gypsy dance, which makes for a lot of fun. These are all some of the percussion instruments which form the part of the ensemble of any folk dance. And many of these are going out of vogue, like this is known as the Kombu. And these are all slowly losing in popularity these days, and artists have a very tough time sustaining their livelihood. Terukothu, again, is street play, where they traditionally perform Mahabharata and Ramayana. The Bhagavata Mela, again performed by priests in Vaishnavite temples during the Brahmotsavam, again stories from Mahabharata highlighting the epic of Krishna or Ramayana. Silambatam, which was once upon a time a martial art, today has also become a performing art, with variations like what you see here, the fire silambam. A variation of this is the Chakakuchi Atam, performed only by boys. And here is something known as the Mallar Kambam, where artists get onto the top of a pole. This is more of something like a gymnastic thing where they're trying to build up the core strength to aid their silambatam. And this is called the Kairi Mallar or rope mallar, where they perform atop a rope. Here is Kumiyata. This is performed by ladies on any holy occasion. You will see it happening on the streets in front of the temples of the mother goddess. Here again in front of the mother goddess. And here is here is something known as the kolatam. So this is where kol means, the stick or the kuchi that they're having in their hands. Variations of this are performed in many parts of India as well as in Tamil Nadu. And here you have something called the pinnal kolatam. Pinnal means the women here wear their hair in a plait, and you can see here they dance around the stage forming patterns, and they form a plate which they then undo. So this is called a pinnal kolatam. Now here is something very interesting, villupattu. This is a very traditional method of storytelling. Instantly, who you see here is my grandfather Subbu Arumuham, one of the very last living artists of this great tradition. And they know like hundreds of stories and hymns by heart, and they can entertain an audience for hours together. And today, children in school are given contemporary themes where they have to compose and sing using the villupattu. Villi means bow. And as you can see, this instrument is shaped like a bow, and this is what they use to keep the rhythm. Here is Bomalatam, again string puppetry, which is very popular in many parts of the world. So it is here in Tamil country. Again, references to the Bomalatam are found in the 7th century hymns of the Tamil Saivite saints. Here is the story of the Ramayana, again being told using string puppets. Here is the very interesting Tol Pave Kuthu or leather puppetry. And this is native of South India. It is from here that it went to countries like Indonesia. And typically, only stories from Ramayana are told through this form. And all these puppets are made out of goat hide. And these artists, this is our puppetry theater, these artists who perform the art have a secret of treating the goat hide with herbs. And they then draw these puppets. And some of their puppets are over 100 years old. So these are some of the folk performances that are typical of the Tamil region. And I will stop my screen share here, after which I think there is a small intro video into our project itself, which will play now, after which I'll be happy to take question answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chitra ma'am. I'll just play the video from my screen.
Vanakkam. Welcome to Kadambanam Temple of Tamil Traditions. Set in a sea of green in the countryside of Madurai, Tamil Nadu, Kadambanam offers visitors a glimpse into the oldest continuously living civilization in the world, showcasing Tamil tradition and culture, arts and crafts, music and dances, spiritual beliefs, and culinary delights. Our ethnic resort provides a culturally immersive experience through storytelling, recreating tradition and rituals with guests participating hands on, in addition to offering yoga and meditation, nature walks, village visits, cookery classes, handicrafts workshops, and lecture demonstrations. The Kadambanam Cultural Center offers a cultural evening where guests can learn about our spiritual beliefs, sample Tamil games, a bit of astrology, the highlight being a presentation of Bharatanatyam, the classical dance of Tamil Nadu, and folk dances and leather puppetry, followed by a sumptuous, typical Tamil ethnic banana leaf dinner. Come to Kadambanam and experience Tamil Nadu.
Thank you, Chitra ma'am. Now let's move to the Q&A session. Audience, if you have questions, please post it on this Q&A tab. Right now, we don't have any questions, but in the meantime, when the questions are coming, so I mean, you said that right now only 25 to 30 folk dance forms are surviving. So again, in actual, how many were there earlier?
Now, if we were to go by the references found in our old literary works, there were more than 100 forms.
Okay.
So many of these forms we know by name, and we don't know how it. I know how it was performed. So some of them, or most of them, find a mention in our Sangam literary works, which is a huge corpus of works that are dated between the 3rd century BCE and 2nd century AD. And some of the dance forms are also mentioned in the hymns known as the Tevaram, a compilation composed between 7th century AD and 9th century AD, in which these forms of dances performed by women especially are mentioned, but we only have to guess as to what it could have been. Somehow we are slowly lost out on many of these traditions because they were passed down through oral tradition.
True. Okay, we have first questions from Durga Singh ji. He's saying the storytelling is music and lecture only, or it's a music only.
The
storytelling, the storytelling which which you do at the Kadambanam, storytelling is music and lecture, or it's only music?
No, it's always music and lecture, because you see, there's no point in having a music, or for that matter, a Bharatanatyam performance where all the lyrics are going to be in Tamil, or even for that matter, let's say Telugu. We normally stick to Tamil, and the observer is not going to understand a word of what is being said. And unless you understand the word, see, every dance has a theme. And if you don't understand the lyrics, you won't understand the theme. So even a Bharatanatyam program at Kadambanam happens like a small lecture demo where it helps that I am a dancer myself. So I go on stage and explain the meaning of what is it that they're going to see exactly. And other than that, storytelling happens a lot in our temple. We have a very open temple with a lawn where we see that many tourists who come to South India have done their own reading on Hinduism, and they have all these doubts. Like for example, one gentleman from Germany, he asked, "Are there really 33, Muppati Mukkodi Devaral, 33,000 crore gods?" That is the saying that comes in a Tamil hymn. I don't know from where he heard it. Maybe it is there in Sanskrit literature too. He said, "Are there really that many gods?" So that really left me stunned, and I did give him an explanation. So, but they do come up with lots of questions like that. And of course, we have a lot of mythology, so there is too much of scope for storytelling.
That's true. Okay, Rashmi Gupta is asking, which dance form is most famous in locals out of the ones that you have shown in the presentation?
The folk dances?
Yes, correct.
Some of the most popular are the Tapatam, the one with the round percussion drum, and Karagatam, the one with the pot.
Pot, so, heavy pot.
Yeah, the one with the pot. Yeah. The others are a little, I mean, all of them are being performed, but these are found like across Tamil Nadu. You go anywhere you can see. But few of the other forms, like for example, if you say Tiruputtur, that is the street play, there are some groups in North Arcot district, which is the northern part of Tamil Nadu, which specialize in that. If you take Bhagavata Mela, then there are specialist groups in that. So that is there for a few, but I would say most of them are performed all across Tamil Nadu. And today, a very heartwarming trend is that students, both school students and college students, are very eager to learn these arts. They perform in school stages and all that. And so that is ensuring the survival of whatever is left of it. And a lot of artists are there.
All right. There's a question by Chandrasekhar. He says, hi, ma'am. How do you see Pongal festival nowadays? it is like people would like to celebrate it at home or they like to demonstrate it more. As you mentioned that it is 4 days festival. So according to you, in which day clients should be in respective destinations so that they can witness it in a full-fledged manner, the peak day of the Pongal festival.
See, Pongal is a 4-day festivity, and traditionally in Tamil households, it's holiday time. And people, especially in cities, the relevance, because it's a harvest festival. So for a person sitting in a city like Chennai, the relevance of a harvest festival is not all that great. So it's more of a 4-day holiday break for them to go on a mini holiday or unwind, or they do the Pongal at home, where in the pressure, we call it pressure cooker Pongal, which is a usual thing, using a pressure cooker. But if you have to take your guests, then it has to be to some village side where agriculture is still the bread and butter of the people, and so they are very, very serious in their Pongal celebrations. Of course, the tourism departments in the respective districts also organize for a Pongal. In places such as ours, since we also have a temple and we are very traditional, we stick to the calendar. So Pongal is on Pongal day. But there are others like who celebrate Pongal on the day after. Like, for example, Tamil Nadu Tourism does it on different days. And for that, you have to, like really coordinate with the department. But rest assured, if you can just go to any village.
Yeah. I think we have lost the video. Let's wait for a minute. We have lost the video.
Yeah, looks like in there, maybe I'll quickly connect up with you.
Yeah. Please bear with us. I think we have lost the internet connection of our guest speaker.
Meanwhile, Vipin Nayal has a very interesting question.
Yes, here's an interesting question. He
Yeah.
says, Bomalatam is quite popular. Similarly, Katputli dances in Rajasthan, quite similar to Katputli dances in Rajasthan. So which one comes first, or which one inspired the other? India is like, though there's so much diversity in the culture, but then the concept is, quite similar. Like, if Vipin is pointing out, Katputli dance in Rajasthan and Bomalatam in Tamil Nadu is quite similar. So let's wait for.
Yeah, hi Inder. I just spoke to her. She's having some network issues. She's just joining back.
Yeah, yes.
In a minute or so.
Thank you. So the guest speaker will join.
Indrajit, for this question, we have Durga Singh ji as well on. Should I allow him to speak? I guess it would be a nice opinion from his side also.
Yeah, that will be interesting. Yeah.
Sure.
Durga Singh ji, you are live now. You can unmute yourself. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Clearly.
Okay. You see, I was also very struck with this fantastic similarities between nearly all the traditions. I am not being, what do you say in English? I am not being parochial. But however, our puppeteers in Rajasthan believe that Nagaur district, the central Rajasthan, is the origin of puppetry. They even claim their origin from the Putlis on the Singhasan of Vikramaditya, the famous king who sat for justice. And they say that the Putlis used to dance and sing, and we learnt our art from that dancing and singing. However, if one was to read on the history of puppetry, We have this lovely tradition starting on eastern coast, Orissa, of shadow puppetry. It went to Vietnam, it went to Indonesia. Then in the same coast, there's a Tamil Nadu tradition. So they have the common link, and several traditions claim to be the first ones. However, it has to be researched. I'm not being diplomatic, but it has to be researched.
Yes,
No,
sir.
no, I agree. I agree. And actually, the string puppetry, the Bommalatam, is not native of these parts. More the Tolpave Kuttu, that is the leather puppetry.
Mm-hmm.
And, we don't know in terms of history and archaeology, deciding on a chronology for anything and everything in India is a big challenge, especially Tamil Nadu, because we find that in southern India, at least there the Mauryas and the Guptas, they had inscriptions and they recorded history. But here in South India, it has been very late by the time they started recording history. So if we have to again go to the earliest references, we have to go to Sangam Literature, which is 2nd century AD, where a poet sings, "Oh Lord, your um, you're shaking me," or it's not shaking as in literally shaking, okay, as if I were a string puppet. You're putting me under so many travails and torture, as if I were a string puppet. You're tossing me here and there in life. So unless
Perfectly.
the art form was there and the poet had observed it, he wouldn't have recorded it and used it as a simile to chide the Lord himself. So this is where we have to go again and again back to our literature to cull out information regarding origin, ancestry. But that said and done, India has a common culture throughout, and it will be very difficult to ascertain what started where. Like if you take Bharatanatyam, I will definitely say that it belongs to Tamil Nadu because every state has its dance form. But
Correct.
few forms like this, there are overlappings and intersections. I do
True.
agree.
True. Okay, ma'am. Thank you. So there's a question from Pratik Srivastava. He says, ma'am, what is the reason that we lost down these dance forms? As you mentioned, one is that it's only oral only. So what is the reason that it has not been documented? Understand we lost a lot of ancient art forms, in our traditions, and they are passed on only on from generation to generation orally, or taught but not documented. So what is the reason that we lost out on this?
You see, if this is to be specifically addressed in terms of folk arts, and the irony is it has been documented, because when I'm saying that it is mentioned in our literary works and our divine devotional hymns, there is a documentation, but there is no visual documentation, meaning that there is no visual media in terms of a rock painting or some sort of a inscription to support what is there in written record for us to understand the visual form. And there we have been very lacking. And you see, given that our tradition is like thousands of years old, sometimes I used to wonder how did these art forms that are there with us, even how did they survive through so much of time? There have been invasions, there has been something like a British rule coming in, so many upheavals have happened in the social context. And these arts are passed down from father to son, from one generation to the other. A break happens anywhere. See, now I'm telling you, this leather puppetry that I just showed you towards the end, there are hardly a handful of artists in Tamil Nadu who are still practicing the art. I don't know about other places. They don't receive any sort of patronage or support, or a government pension or anything. So naturally, their children are going away from the profession. They're not interested in continuing it. So it is soon going to die out. Even in our generation, our time, we are going to see that. I know in our own place, there used to be one small windpipe instrument that these guys used to play, and there used to be an old man playing it. The man died, and they simply stopped bringing that instrument. It's a windpipe instrument of about 12 inches. And that guy simply said, "No, I didn't learn to play it from my father. I don't know how to play it." So they simply stopped using it. It used to be one of their accompaniments. So that's the sad state of affairs. They're all languishing in poverty, all these folk artists. They're
So unfortunate, yeah.
very poor.
So here's a question by Bene. He says, "Dear Mrs. Ganpati, gracefully showcase presentation. I would like to know for clients, Germans and Austrians coming into South India from December to March, what would be the most revered festival to visit? Either Taipusam or Pongal or Chidambaram, Ngati Anjali or Mamalabaram Dance Fest. Which one would be the one which showcase the essence of Tamil Nadu?
See, that's, I mean, there is no one answer for that.
True.
Because if you're going to go to Chidambaram Dance Festival or Mamalabaram Dance Festival, that's not of much use. Because today, I'll tell you honestly, you go to the US, every other, last year when I visited my cousin's home in Washington, D.C., there are about 50 Bharatanatyam dance teachers in downtown D.C. So, like yoga proliferating everywhere. Today, even our dance forms are so popular. So you don't have to come all the way to India to witness a Bharatanatyam. You can very well catch one in France or Germany or UK for that matter. So when you come here, I feel the priority should be to visit these temple festivities, which are on a larger scale, which cannot be recreated. And I know that even today you have temples abroad and, like for example, there are some huge Hindu temples in the US. They even make their own chariots, the huge tere, but nothing can come close to the original that is here. And, the fervor, the local flavor that the people add. So float festival in Madurai is spectacular. And one thing is the jostling crowds. There are thousands of people on the streets. And so you'll have to work with some local agency which can ensure the, sort of safety and hassle-free experience for the guests. And here in Madurai, Travel Club does that. On the day of the float, traffic around the Mariam and Teppakulam, which is, as I told you, 300 by 310 meters. It's a huge tank. Traffic around the 4 roads of the tank are stopped 3 hours prior to the festivity. So we have a permission where we take them in earmarked vans through a special route into the college that sits on the banks of one of the sides of the tank. And they have a vantage point on the terrace from where they can have an unhindered view. It's a very excellent photo opportunity as well. So you have to find a place that can offer that view. So that way the float festival in Madurai is a clear winner. And in Chidambaram, it is very convenient because, these ablutions happen out in the open.
Right.
So you don't have to be up close. You can be anywhere. You can simply stand around anywhere and watch it for about, you're not going to be there the whole night, right? Like the devotees for 7 hours, 8 hours. You walk in at any time, catch the action for 15, 20 minutes, you can come out. But you have to endure the crowds.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
It's an experience.
Definitely. Vipin is asking, ma'am, how old are the origins of dances and festivals?
I'm sorry. I think in that list, Pongal was also there.
Yeah. Pongal was also there. Yeah.
Pongal is definitely #1 priority. So I'm sorry, I missed that. So it's happening in so many places. So it's not like you witness one, you can't witness the other. Well, that is a problem because Pongal is somewhere around January 14th and the float festival comes a good 10 days after. So they're not going to be here for that long a time means, the pick and choose does have to happen. Pongal always gets top priority.
Top priority, okay. So Vipin is asking, how old are the origins of dances and festivals? Which festival is the oldest one in South India? And how do you see the status of festival, old generation versus new generation approach towards cultural, the festival? How do you see the status of festival 10 to 15 years back and 10 to 15 years ahead?
So categorically, well, if I don't know if I have the time now because I have to get a little into history and archaeology. Today, history of the country is being rewritten every day. New discoveries, archaeological discoveries are being made. And one of the oldest gods in the Tamil context is Lord Muruga. And the Panguni Uttaram, the pot of milk, some of the photographs that I showed you here at Tripuramunram, there are references of the festival having been celebrated from the 2nd century BCE, that is 2,200 years ago. But that said and done, overall, the oldest and most popular is Pongal. Why? Simply because India was and is a predominantly agrarian economy. And in the Tamil country, well, industrialization is there, but still we respect and value our farmers a lot. And agriculture is still a huge occupation. And as according to, the relevance or the importance, with the younger generations, with the IT youth sitting in Chennai, maybe it's not there. It is disappearing. So what we need to do is, at Kadambanam, we showcase Pongal, right? It is an orchestrated event, but it is as authentic and as close to a real village setup that it gets. You'll be surprised that over the past few years, we see that a lot of people from areas in and around Madurai come there with family, not just the foreign tourist. Why? They want to show their children how it was celebrated by their grandparents. So that is the trend here. And, Madurai is an overgrown village, as I already said. And as long as our rural folk are there, and as long as agriculture is there, it will not lose its significance. And today there is a reversal of things where people are talking more and more about their culture, their heritage, and their roots. And so, India has been around for a very, very long time, and she's not going anywhere. So they will be there. But Pongal and Lord Muruga or Kartigeya, Meenakshi Amman temple, Meenakshi wedding, all these are relatively within the last 600, 700 years maybe. See, for us, the relative scale is very different, okay? We are talking about a time when America was not discovered. So our relative scale is very different. So for me, old means older, more than 2000 years ago. Yeah.
Manish Gandhi is asking, the Jallikattu event during Pongal days around Madurai has any religious significance to the festival?
No, there is no religious significance. See, basically, the second day of Pongal is Matu Pongal, where they worship the cow and the bullock. When we say in English, man's best friend is the dog. In the Tamil context, the man's best friend is the bullock, not the dog. And so from there starts the activity. But as I already said, the origin of Jallikattu has got nothing to do with religion. It is a tradition from village areas where, as I mentioned during my presentation, women used to rear these bullocks as their pet animals. And, take great pride in it. Even today, in any household which has a Jallikattu Kale, a bull, a Jallikattu bull is a special breed of bull. They'll not yoke it to the plow. It's given a special diet full of protein. Farmer will be spending more money on the bullock than on himself. So it's almost like a family member. They're very positive about it. And in those days, the practice used to be that the man who wants to win the girl's hand in marriage has to prove his bravery by taming her bull.
Okay.
So in the process, he might even lose his life. So it was a gruesome sport. When you look at the references in our old literary works, again, 2,200 years before, some of the very graphic description of sceneries. For example, there is one where, the bull has split open and the man's intestines have fallen out and the bull is pulling him and running. And the poet says, those intestines look like the red color flower garlands around the neck of Lord Shiva.
Okay.
What a gruesome description, but it is there. So that is the extent. It was a matriarchal society. Conventionally, Tamil society was a matriarchal society where even that time, the woman got to choose whom she married. And that is the origin of Jallikattu. It doesn't have a religious connotation as such.
I'm sure, people knew Jallikattu, but the concept behind them, what is the concept behind it? People did not know. In our office.
Many people even here don't know.
Yeah. So,
but this is the concept.
Yeah, true. So, one of my colleagues is asking, Bene is asking, after sightseeing of Madurai, can the clients be taken to spend the afternoon for witnessing Thola Pavu Kuttu, shadow puppetry, Madatam, Mailatam? Are these dance forms performed on particular days, or do we need to spend a full day to have a glimpse of all the dance forms?
No, see, that's a very good question. If you come around Pongal time, earlier, Tamil Nadu Tourism used to conduct all these folk dances for 4 days at Gandhi Museum. Those of you who are familiar with Madurai would probably know Gandhi Museum, where there's a large amphitheater. When we were young kids in Madurai, during Pongal season, because there was no television, so we used to go there and there used to be all these folk dances. But now what has happened is these dances happen selectively in different areas. You really don't know what happens where. That is one of the reasons why we conceived our cultural center, because we wanted to establish it as an everyday show during the tourist season at least. And Tolpave Kute especially is shadow puppetry, so you can see it only in the night. You can't, yeah, I mean, or unless you've got a very, darkened theater kind of a room, you can't enjoy Tolpa Vekuthu. But it's not like you can just come and you can see. Now, what we do in our place is we were not able to establish the center as a daily running place. It became a chicken and egg story. That's a different story altogether. But if we know that a group is coming in, and if you want us, we've even done these shows around lunchtime. So we do custom make these shows and offer it to groups. And any one or two groups are called in. I mean, performing troops. They don't perform all the 25. They'll be doing about 6 or 7 of it, and you can enjoy a cross section for about an hour. That's the most you can go with it because it's very noisy, very loud.
Indra, you're muted.
My colleague Vikas is asking, nowadays, does Jallikattu is considered to be traditional? No, sorry. Nowadays, does Jallikattu consider tradition versus safety by administration? Is this getting less popular or still celebrated in the same tone, same passion? Jallikattu.
It is very much celebrated in the same tone. As we were discussing yesterday, in the middle, activists, tried to get it banned, saying that it was animal cruelty and all that stuff. And, there was a big protest that simply burst out into the whole of Tamil Nadu. And we took it up to the Supreme Court and got the permission to keep conducting it as usual. But now there are a lot of safety measures put in place. Now, ironically, these safety measures are for the viewers, for the guests, because you have these temporary galleries that are erected, and you have to buy your tickets or book your space ahead of it, and they are really safeguarded, but not the ones who are actually fighting the bull on the field. So, sadly, during Jallikattu, which happens in Alanganallur on the second day after Pongal, and there are several other places where Jallikattus keep happening. But Alanganallur is the biggest and most famous. In all these Jallikattus, you will see at least 2 or 3 guys losing their lives in the course of the fight. But they don't seem to mind. And, it becomes a big ego issue and a prestige issue with these youths here down south. And the fervor of the Jallikattu is still there. But there's no maiden's hand to be won. That's besides the point again. Okay. So they do it for money. There's also money involved. Yeah, first prize, cash prize. It's a prestige thing.
Okay. Chandrasekhar is asking, this is the last question. Bharatanatyam dance performances exclusively for female or males can also perform it?
Males also perform. There are some art forms, like for example, if you take the Bhagavata Mela, which I showed, it is also, I won't say like Bharatanatyam, but in terms of costumes and jewelry and storytelling format, there are similarities. But Bhagavata Mela is performed only by men. And even if there's a lady character like Draupadi, it will be a man wearing the lady's costume and performing. But Bharatanatyam, well, Lord Shiva, the cosmic dancer, is a man. So, where else do you have to go? There are a lot of men also today who perform. Till even the establishment of Kalakshetra, if I might put it. Kalakshetra is a must visit, and today they are open to tourists and locals. You can take a ticket and go in and capture the classes happening, the Bharatanatyam classes. It's a beautiful campus in Chennai. And till about 100 years ago, that is a little before Kalakshetra was established, women were not allowed to teach Bharatanatyam. Traditionally, we call them Natuvanganar. They sit and they have this small wooden plank on which they keep the rhythm for the dancer to move around. They were only men. And somehow men thought that women couldn't teach. But with Rukmani Devi, Arundale and Kalakshetra, all that changed. And today we are dominating there also. Yeah. So
we are over with the questions. Thank you, ma'am, so much for giving us all this information, which we've never had such detailed information about the festivals and the folk dances of Tamil Nadu. Maybe we'll have another session where we'll take up only one.
I would like to end with a big request, and that is that please promote Tamil Nadu, and Tamil Nadu does get an added advantage of being next to Kerala. So whatever happens in Kerala, because of that, we benefit a bit. But Tamil Nadu also needs to be promoted as a year-round destination. So anytime you come, something is happening. And, after traveling abroad, after climate change, I really don't understand what the big fuss is about our April, May, June summer months. You go to Washington in July, it's even hotter there. That is what I feel. So there's no such thing as season, off season, or cold months in December, January. I think we are beyond all that, and you should promote us as a year-round destination. And thank you for giving this platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Saurav, can you show the poll on the screen, please? I will request all the attendees to fill up the poll before leaving the session. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. So, am I free to leave?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, sure, definitely.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Nagaraj, we'll catch up later then.
Sure. Thank you so much, Chitra.